Good morning, Chair City Church. Good to see you today. It's about 7 years back, I turned 50 years of age. Man, time flies. And on my birthday, I asked the family, and they agreed to go to Jamestown, Rhode Island. Nice place. I wanted to walk along the bluffs and the rocks. I saw pictures there, these like big, huge flat rocks, or kind of flat rocks piled in a disorganized way on top of each other, and kind of just heading down out just along the ocean. And I thought, what a nice place for kind of a hike slash challenging walk by the ocean. So we made our way out there, and when we arrived, we could see it was very picturesque, and the rocks and the ocean, and then I thought, hey, why not get a better feel of all of this? Get a better view of the ocean. And so, I started to walk down on the rocks, and especially the sloping section out one closer to the water. And Chrissy, turned to me and she said, you know what, I don't think you should go down there. She was kind of back more, up towards the street by, kind of ledge with Diane and Lloyd. And she said, I don't think you should go down there because the sign says, do not walk on the rocks. And I explained to her that it was a broad application and it didn't apply to what I was doing. And it was my birthday. So I just figured, worst comes to worst, if they come and they get upset with me at a time, it's my birthday. Come on, So I went down, but I didn't go alone. I took my 4 kids with me, who at the time were 15, 13, and 8. And so they made their way down with me. And, and I was correct. It was a better view. And it was really nice, as we got closer to the water's edge. I mean, you could see the waves crashing up against the rocks, and sea foam it was coming. It was landing not far from us. And I thought, wow. And then I said, man, if I could just get a little bit closer, what a picture. What, maybe only like 20, 30 feet, I'd get a great picture. So I said, okay. And between me and where I wanted to go for the picture was, this big kind of sloping kind of black rock. And so I said, all right, it'll only take me a couple of seconds, get across that rock, and then it was really flat. What a great pic, and what a great view, too. So I set out, now, and the kids were right with me. I went first. I took my step, a jump, and then whoosh, man, like a sheet of ice in February, man. I was looking up at my feet, and I came crashing down onto this rock. And before the pain that would come from my 50-year-old bones landing on a rock could even settle in, I felt myself sliding. And you know why? Because I was sliding. and then it just hit me, you see? I had realized at the bottom of this rock was this sort of I call it a black hole, if you will. And water would fill it up, and then all of a sudden you hear whoosh, and it would just get sucked out violently. And I had been watching it from a distance, and now I turn and look, and I hear, and I'm like, I'm sliding into this hole that fills up with water and then gets sucked out violently. And I'm like, I'm dead. I'm dead, man. I'm going to slide right into this kind of a hole in the ocean, and I'm going to get sucked up, and they'll find me like, miles away, like floating dead somewhere. So that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? So an extraordinary amount of fear just rose up in me. I am clawing at the rock. I am flailing. I am reaching. I did all I could to jump up and try and run and right back down. The fear is worsening, and I could literally hear the sound of the water sucking out of the hole like every 30 seconds or so. And have I told you I can't swim? As many of you know, I cannot swim. And I'm thinking, Dave, man, you're going to go into that hole and you are not going to come out. Well, each day in our life, there's so much coming at us. I think we've gotten used to it. But we get peppered, and just there's so much that are coming into our hearts and our minds. And a good amount of that creates a fear, because a lot of that is things that are, we're not certain about. And the fear is real, and it's on us, it's within us, it's a driving force, it affects us, it affects our well-being, it affects our behaviors. Fear is a negative response to uncertainties. It's part of being human, it is. The question is, when we experience fear, what will we do with it? What are you doing with the fear that you experience? And likely to one degree or another, a lot more than you realize. What will we do with this fear? Because this is the moment of truth. Now, we want to have an invincible faith in the midst of fear. Today we're going to jump into Isaiah chapter 41, and we're going to, be looking into a situation or a moment in the history of the Bible where Isaiah the prophet is talking to the people of Israel. The nation of Israel had gone through a long season. They had good leaders, poor leaders. Their culture had taken a lot of negative hits. And in the middle of all that, God raises up Isaiah the prophet. And he speaks through Isaiah to the people of Israel. The book of Isaiah as a whole speaks to God's glory and his power to rescue and to save his people. We are his people today. And we're going to start with Isaiah chapter 41, verse 8. And we see God speaking to his people, and he's proclaiming his majesty and his power. And he's doing this in the face of the people choosing to begin to worship idols. In some cases, they're images of gold that so large that they've got to nail the idols down so they won't fall over. The people are doing all this in the face of fear. Fear of their neighbors. Fear of uncertainty. Isaiah chapter 41, verses 8 through 10 says, "But you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, you descendants of Abraham, my friend, I took you from the ends of the earth, from its farthest corners I called you. I said, you are my servant. I have chosen you and have not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." So the words are spoken from God to his children, the nation of Israel. The people were faced with a lot of difficulties. A good amount coming from threatening nations that were close to them, that were surrounding their land. And in verse 8, in the middle of all these difficulties, Isaiah says, God wants you to know that you are chosen, right? That you've been chosen. It says here, "But you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, you descendants of Abraham, my friend." In the middle of the fear, what you see happening here is God calls the Israelites to remember their identity and their purpose. God says, "My servant Jacob, whom I've chosen." So Jacob was a guy, a person who that in times of uncertainty, when fear would come upon him, he would what? He would take control. That's what we learn when we read the life of Jacob in the Bible. He would tend not to trust God. He would manipulate, and he would only see himself, and he would usually make a mess of things. One day, Jacob was in the middle of a very uncertain situation where he could foresee the possibility of danger coming his way, but he didn't turn from God. He didn't take control. Well, you could say God was merciful and met Jacob in an incredible way. And in that moment, Jacob didn't turn from God, and instead Jacob wrestled with God. You see, we're going to have fear, but what will you do with your fear? An invincible faith is one that wrestles with God. You're going to wrestle with God. You're going to have some doubt. There's going to be the uncertainty. You're going to feel a little overwhelmed, but then you get a hold of the God that has gotten a hold of you. And you wrestle with God. And then you will be changed, right? How many of us get to a point where you're just feeling a bit overwhelmed? You just, the fear is on you. It is such a reality. And it is real and it is there. But you're going to have that moment of truth, that moment when you're going to have to make a decision, where your actions now will flow from that decision. And I tell you, pause. Don't turn, but instead trust God. Just take a hold of him. Just take a hold of him. And God here mentions Abraham. And Abraham was someone who, when we read in the history of the Bible, who, would trust God even in the most extraordinary uncertainties. And he would see God's presence and promises come to pass as a result of that trust. So, do you have a good amount of fear that is building up in you? Oh, it's there a lot more than you might realize. You'd be astounded about how much of your actions, the way you weigh things and making decisions, are fueled by a fear to one degree or another. What if this doesn't happen? What if I don't have enough of this? What if I can't do that? How am I going to do this? What about what I did here? And you'd be astonished. So that's, well, Dave, but this seems to be reality. It is, but what are you going to do with that? Are you going to just take control, turn from God and go? Or are you going to remember, I don't have to do that. I can stop here and take a hold of God. I can stop here and remember, that and trust in God and see his promises fulfilled in my life. Now, God also tells the children of Israel right then and there, his children, that you are my first choice. My first choice. I chose you, he says, and I chose you to serve. That's what he says. My servants, he's calling them. God says to the Israelites what he says to you and I here today. We who have faith in Jesus Christ, we have been chosen to serve. Now, I'm sure when I say that, you're not like, yes, oh, Dave, I've been chosen to serve. I'm so excited about that. But you want to be. You do. It is so important. It is so effective that in the face of fear, you see yourself as someone who can serve others. Because when you do that, you're identifying with Jesus, who said, I came to serve, yes? And when you do that, you're sort of getting outside yourself. You're getting out of this kind of a, if you will, a constricted, confined place of just listening to the loud voices of your fear that's haunting you and taunting you, but getting outside of yourself and giving yourself to another. And identifying, but with your actions and your behavior, identifying with Jesus, and then seeing Jesus do something incredible in your life through that, or just even meaningful in a way that just alerts you to the presence of God in you, around you, with you. What an injection of reality. See, there is another reality out there, and you want to introduce yourself to it by serving others. Yeah, just do it. Sometimes I call it keeping it honest, with all that we do and all that's going on, just keeping it honest, remembering who Jesus was and what he did, how he humbled himself and served me. This past week, I was asked, about a month ago, to do something at the senior center, and you think, oh, I was called to go and speak there. No. They asked me to come and if I would serve tea. It was having a tea party at the senior center for senior citizens. And they said, the director called me up and he said, Dave, I'm looking, we're going to call them dignitaries. I'm a dignitary. And he said, would you like to come and serve some tea? And I said, sure, I'll come. And I did, and that's what I did. And it's funny, when it was happening, you know what I was thinking of? I was actually pretty nervous about the whole thing. I remember when we first met, and I'm talking to Christy, for those of you out there online. You remember when the first day we met, and we were at Sergio and Janine's, and I made you a cup of tea, and I spilled it on you. I did. Hot order too, hot tea. So orange spice tea. That's right, babe. So I'm like, man, I better not spill this on these people. But I did. It was a nice time, great time. And you know, I got up that morning. I had things to think about, things I'm worrying about, things that would bring some fear into me. And now I'm like, okay, wow, oh, you know, you look at your calendar like, oh, I got to do that today, right? Oh, no. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go. And I went there and I disconnected. And I walked around the tables and chatted with the people. And you know that, it was such a nice time. But I also got to make a connection with a woman who has a prominent position with the Gardner Housing. We talked, we went back and forth. We realized, wow, we've got a possibility of a great relationship here between Share City Church and the Gardner Housing. How awesome is that? I can already see lives being changed. I can see us glorifying God out there. That's reality, isn't it? Yeah. See, that's reality. And that's what happens when we step out to serve others, you know? And it doesn't have to be, oh, it's got to be what I'm great at. I stink at pouring tea. I've learned that. I'm not good. I'm just not good. Like the ladies, like, what? Like they were coaching me, you know? Like, no, not in that cup. That's why these nice things are here. You pour it in the big one. I'm like, oh, sorry. Listen, get out and serve people. Pause right now. Ask yourself, who can I serve? Who is God calling me to serve? My husband? My wife? My parents? Grandparents? My children, my neighbor, my friend, someone in my church. Who is God calling me to serve? Who is he putting on my heart right now? In this day and age, when people are becoming more and more consumed with themselves and gratifying themselves, you go the other way. You swim upstream. You go against the grain, and you identify with Jesus Christ. Yes? Yeah. And in doing that, now you bring in a greater reality that you can introduce the reality of your fear to. And now this voice, I assure you, will be greater than that voice. God chooses us to serve in this world, even in the midst of our fear, and actually in the midst of our fear. Get outside of ourselves, help others, you know? Now, and then when you're doing this, you're not now identifying yourself with your insufficiencies or your limitations. Instead, you're gaining as you identify with your great God, your Creator. And that's what God was doing here in the beginning of Isaiah chapter 41. Before you get to verse 8, he's going now through Isaiah, speaking to the Jewish people, and he's saying pretty much, remember who I am. I am the first and the last. I am the creator of heavens and earth. He's letting them know who he is. Like this, you know, do not fear. I am with you. All right, we're going to jump back in. Verse 10 says, so do not fear. I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. So God here is giving the Israelites, he's giving us his counsel because he knows we're human. It's at that time, in the day of the Israelites, it's scary for them. I mean, they are in fear of losing their land, their security, their food, their supply would be ravaged, homes destroyed by these neighboring nations. And in the midst of all that, God speaks loudly. He speaks loudly. And he says, do not fear. He reminds them in verses 1 through 7, this is who I am, remember. And then he says, do not fear. Here's my counsel in light of who I am, in the reality of the God that I am, and that you know that I am. Do not fear. Do not be dismayed. Do not fear. I am the Lord your God. So that day, when I am sliding on my way to a certain death. I was doing, yeah, man, I couldn't find them. We actually have pictures of me standing up afterwards and like my legs are bleeding. I'm a mess of gook and all over me. It was just a terrible thing. And I did think I was done, man. I was doing everything I could to get out of the mess that I had put myself in. I was flailing. I was reaching. I was so filled with fear. And all I could think of was, man, I am in trouble. And the more I sensed like I'm in trouble, the more I could hear the waves and the sound of the water getting sucked through, the worse it got, and the more I struggled to help myself. And then it happened. I remember it so clearly. I heard a voice. And then I heard it again. And then I realized it wasn't one voice, it was several voices. And they were yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." My wonderful children had banded together. My sane, wonderful children had banded together and formed a human chain. And they were calling out to me to take a hold of their hands. You know, their outstretched hands. And I heard their voices. I looked, and they were just like, right there, like maybe like a couple of feet from me. And I took their hand, and together we worked, and they saved me from my certain death and that dangerous dark hole. When we are filled with fear, that fear speaks loudly to us. And if we keep listening, we are likely not to hear God's voice, the God who's present, the God who's right with us. My friends, some of you right now, because fear has been speaking to you, you are having conversations in your head that are keeping you up at night. They are. You're listening to those voices derived from fear, and you are on the cusp of making a poor decision. And maybe in some cases you've made a poor decision that came out of fear. And you're now mired in what you see as very negative results. And now you are likely to keep that cycle going. But today you don't have to do that. You can pause, you can stop, and you will say, you know what? No, I'm going to pause and I'm going to hear God's voice. God is calling out to me. And that voice will bring you calmness, and that voice will bring clarity, and that voice will be comfort. When you listen to God's voice and you trust in Him, you experience His presence, you experience His power in a unique and in an unforgettable way. Verse 10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." God calls you to be free from fear this morning. God calls you to be free from fear dominating you, speaking loudly in your mind, consuming you, being the primary source that fuels you, being all of your reality. God calls you to freedom from that. When you take a test in school, as you get ready for an interview for a position, if you take a stand against something that is unjust, when you think you have to have an unnecessary conversation with someone you love, when you face an operation or a treatment, when you've lost a spouse, a friend, a loved one, and you look at the future, God calls you to listen and hear His voice. And He doesn't leave this call and even a command, if you will, just hanging out there. No. He brings divine support to it. He does. Every single thing that He calls us to and every single thing that God commands us to, He brings divine support. He says, "Fear not, God is with you. Fear not, God will strengthen you. Fear not, God will help you. Fear not, God will uphold you." I do not need to fear. God is with me. Well, where and how is He with me? He says, I'm your God. I am over you. I am with you. I am by your side. I will strengthen you. I am inside of you. From the inside out, I will make you strong. I will help you. I am all around you. From wherever the uncertainty comes, I am there. And I will uphold you. I am underneath you. I am over you, underneath you, all around you, inside of you. I am everywhere. I am with you. Do not fear. Hear that. Hear God speak that into your mind. Listen, I say to you this morning, stop defining and limiting your life to what you think you can do or to what you have done. And in terms of your past, instead, take all that to God and let your life be defined by His power and His love and His presence. Yes? Let that settle in. Let that settle in this morning. God is with me. He is speaking into my heart and mind. Fear, let me introduce you to my faith. Yes? Now, we feel fear. We're human, and it's part of our humanhood. And we feel it when our security is threatened, when our life is disrupted. Over time, that fear can become a heavy weight that we are carrying. And we might not realize how we are carrying it and how heavy it's getting and the emotional and even physical toll it takes on us. And now we become vulnerable to keep doing things that way and keep thinking that way. Today, you can end that vicious cycle. Today, you can place your trust in Jesus like you have never done before. And for some of you out there online and here, maybe you've never placed your trust in Jesus. But today is the day for you to do that. Perhaps that's what God brought you in here today, that you would know Him and that you would come to a place of trusting in Jesus rather than yourself. What a beautiful thing to trust in this glorious God who gives us such divine support and brings us such hope and freedom. We can trust in Him. Today would be a great day to do that. Today you can acknowledge God. Acknowledge God. You can turn to Him. You could ask His forgiveness for the things you've done, the way you've lived, when all you knew was to be driven solely and only by fear, when fear was your reality and your primary reality. And in that, you lived out in ways where you turned from God, you didn't sense God, you missed the mark of what God was calling you for and how He commanded you to live. But not today. Today, you could surrender to Jesus. You can give your life to Jesus. A simple surrender, a beautiful surrender that says, I need God. Because either you could say, I need God, or today you could say, I don't need God. But you need God. And if you're watching online or you're in here, then I believe God has ordained. He has divinely called you to this place, and the Holy Spirit has awakened you to the realization, I need God. It's a beautiful thing. And you can come before Jesus and say, Jesus, thank you for surrendering your life for mine, and now I gladly give my life to you. Yes. Today, say, God, I am here. I am ready. I am ready to listen to you. I am ready to trust you. I am ready to serve you. Some of you have been around Christianity for a while, going to church for a while, but today maybe you'd say, Jesus, I've known you for a long time. And you know what? My walk with you, my life with you, it's not what it should have been, and I know that. And today I want to change that. Thank you for being merciful and preparing me for this moment, for carrying me to this moment, for awakening me in this moment. That you would fill me with your Holy Spirit, that I would sense your presence in me, around me, over me, underneath me, that I would hear your voice calling me to something greater. Now, God, show me your glory. Show me your glory. I'm not going to see what Satan's showing me, the fear. Not going to see that. I'm going to see your glory in my life, yes? Oh, God, give me the peace, and the strength. Let it flow through me that I might bless and serve others. If that's you today, if you are coming to faith in Jesus for the first time, or if you are renewing your faith in Jesus, man, today is the day where I'm going to live out my faith in Christ like never before. I'm going to see God's glory in my life. Whether you're coming to faith or renewing it, we want to know about that. We've made a simple way. It's called a connection card. When you came in today into this auditorium, you were handed a card. It says one side YOU, the next side My Next Step. On that side, My Next Step, look down, and somewhere in the middle, you'll see an area where you could let us know, I've begun a relationship with Jesus. Today, I've done it. I've come to Jesus. I've surrendered to him today. I'm hearing God more than I'm hearing myself. Well, check that box off, fill out that area, bring that card to the guest services table in the lobby, and they will hand you a gift package. And if you're out there online or even in here personally and you prefer digitally, here's what you can do. Out there online, text Chair City, one word, to 97000, and that connection card will pop up. In here digitally, in front of you on the back of a seat, you'll see a small orange card. It says Chair City Post. There's a QR code. Scan that QR code, and that same connection card will pop up. Out there online, in here digitally, complete that form and send it in, and in a few days you will get that gift package. And we will be praying for you, and we will be celebrating with you, knowing that God will glorify himself in you. All right. So that day in Jamestown, Rhode Island, on my 50th birthday, after my kids pulled me to safety, I kind of gathered myself and I looked up, and there I saw my wife. She had one look on her face. She's sweet. I saw my in-laws. They had other looks on their faces. And then I saw, not a crowd, but a fairly decent amount of people that kind of were over by the rail, looking down. And I turned to my kids and I said, wow. I said, maybe someone filmed this. Maybe it's like a video. To which my son Jason said, well, if they did, they would have to rate it PG-13. And at that point, I realized, in the midst of my being overwhelmed with fear, I had tossed out a few dozen vulgarities. Maybe more. So, I get it. It sounds reasonable. It could happen. But here I was in the face of fear, and my reality said, you are in danger, man. And I only listened to that reality. I only listened to my fear. And it really did bring out the worst of me, in the way I was trying to see through the situation and the things that were coming out of me verbally. Basically, I was just simply, deteriorating in every possible way you could. I was making things worse. And that's because all I heard and all I saw was my fear. That was my only reality. But there really was, the entire time, another reality. And yes, only 24 inches away were my kids. God was with me the entire time in our fearful situations. When we sense fear on us, when we realize the thoughts that we're having are connected to fear, a fearful thought. Not necessarily terrifying, can be. Eventually, the enemy will take you there. That's terrifying. But it could simply seem almost okay. Be careful. Guard your heart and mind. Capture the thoughts. Realize, wow, this is a fear. This is something the enemy could really come in and magnify. Just, God, open my eyes. Open my ears. Let me hear your voice. And as you do that, sense God's presence over you, under you, around you, in you, and sense him anchoring your soul. And remember this, the presence of God will counter and conquer your fears every single time. God bless you.